The human named Ryland stepped into the grand hall on Xerion, and a wall of heat and noise pushed against him. Colored lights flashed across rows of alien faces, and a drum thunder echoed in his ribs as if the very floor wanted to shake the courage from his heart. Yet he kept walking toward the stage. Ryland had come only to study trade routes. But the moment he saw the cages, he knew this visit would not end as planned. Each pen held a living being tagged as property, and the smell of fear mixed with spice and oil crawled up his throat like smoke, choking any thought of turning away. At the far end, a golden platform rose under a single beam of green light. The auctioneer, tall, scaled, wearing chains as jewelry, snapped his fingers, and guards dragged forward the star of tonight, a girl who did not look like any species Ryland had studied. Her hair shone silver like liquid metal, her eyes bright teal like ocean under sun, and yet her wrists bore iron cuffs that bit into her skin. A cheer rolled through the stands. Bidders lifted electronic tablets. Numbers rose in glowing red symbols that climbed faster than Ryland could read. But the girl did not watch the crowd. She searched for something, or someone. Restless as a caged storm, Ryland felt the pull before he understood it. Her gaze locked with his, and time slowed. Within the roar, he heard nothing but the quick beat of his pulse. Her lips moved in silence. "Please take me home." No translator chip sparked in his ear. It was pure spoken Terran, clear and gentle, slicing through the chaos like a whisper in a library. Shock tightened every muscle. He looked around, wondering if anyone else had heard. Yet the crowd kept shouting bids. No one cared. No one saw the plea in her eyes. Anger sparked in his chest, small at first, then growing. Hot as iron in a forge, the auctioneer slammed a hammer on a crystal plate. "Starting offer, 10,000 credits." Voices answered like cannon fire. 20, 30, 50. The numbers shot higher. Ryland blinked. That sum could buy a cargo freighter. The girl trembled as each new bid rose, yet her gaze never left him. "Please." Her mouth formed again, and a tear traced down her cheek. Catching the green light like a falling star, Ryland raised his hand, voice shaky but steady enough. 100 credits. Laughter exploded across the hall. The auctioneer sneered, thinking the human joked. Then Ryland added louder, 100 and a contract to heal her injuries. The sneer faded. Confusion spread like ripples. Why would a buyer offer care instead of chains? The girl gasped. Hope flickered in her eyes, and something inside her seemed to glow brighter. The guards flinched back as if they felt heat rise off her skin. Another bidder tried to shout 2 million, but the girl suddenly spoke in a language that rattled every metal beam in the hall, a sound like crystal shattering and wind howling together. Lights flickered and displays glitched. Silence crashed over the crowd. Even the auctioneer stood frozen. The systems failed to register new bids. Alarms blinked, red, yet no one moved. Fear hung thick as fog. In that hush, the auctioneer whispered a new rule on the spot. "Sold to the human. Remove her from my stage." Guards hurried. Keys shook. The human contract was printed in pale blue ink. Ryland signed without reading. His signature burned into the tablet like flame-kissing paper. The chains unclasped and fell. With a clang that echoed in the stunned quiet, the girl's shoulders sagged but her eyes blazed bright with life. Ryland offered his coat. She wrapped it around thin shoulders, her voice soft. "Thank you." 3 words that held worlds of relief. Yet her knees buckled. He steadied her, feeling heat through fabric. Something inside her body pulsed like distant thunder. He wondered if the strange language had hurt her. Crowd parted as they walked. Some stared in awe, others whispered fear. A few recorded on holo devices, but no one stood in their way. 2 lives had broken the rules tonight, and the hall seemed eager to swallow the shock and forget. Yet Ryland knew the story would not end here. Eyes watched from shadows. Prophet Lost always hunts for revenge outside. Night air washed over them, cool and sharp with the scent of metal streets and ion engines. Ryland guided her toward his small ship. Lights of the city skyline painted their path in blue and gold. He tried to speak, yet words failed, so they walked in quiet. Only their footsteps and distant traffic filling the space between. At the ramp, she paused, hand resting on hull. Head feels heavy, voice low, breath quick. Ryland led her to the med. Chair scanners flicked green across her skin. Readings flew too fast. Unfamiliar symbols appeared. The ship's AI started. Unknown biosignature. Volatile energy detected. Proceed with caution. He swallowed. Energy. What kind? The system paused, searching before results came. She gripped his wrist, eyes bright as stars. "I am not safe. Not yet. They will come. Please, if you wish to live, lift off now." Engines roared. City lights blurred as the ship rose. Alarms echoed across landing platforms. Behind them, the auction hall lit in crimson emergency beams. Drones lifted. Ryland took the pilot seat, heart racing. His new passenger buckled beside him as they punched through cloud layers. She looked at Earth's lone human in the cabin, voice barely above breath. "You chose me, so I choose you." Her words carried a promise and a warning. Ryland stared at the horizon where dark space waited, knowing the next step might change the fate of more than just 2 lives. Yet he felt no regret, only resolve. The ship had barely left the planet's orbit when the emergency signal flashed on the screen. Red lights blinked across the dashboard. and a sharp sound rang through the cabin. Rylan looked at the girl beside him. She was breathing fast, holding her side like something inside her chest had cracked. Her silver hair fell over her face, and her glowing eyes flicked toward him with a strange calm. "They sent a tracker," she said, voice soft but steady. "They marked me before the auction. In case I tried to escape." Rylan stared at the screen. 3 blips were chasing them, fast military drones, not for capture, for destruction. He switched to manual control and pulled hard on the ship's path. They dipped low into a nearby gas cloud, hoping the storm inside it would hide them, but the girl's body suddenly tensed, her back arched, and a thin stream of light glowed from under her skin. Lines appeared on her arms like ancient symbols. "Waking up, what's happening to you?" Rylan asked. She clenched her fists and looked away. "I wasn't just made for display." Her voice changed, deeper, older, more like many voices speaking as one. "I was made to adapt to any world, to any threat, to any enemy. But they never expected me to feel outside the ship." A loud crack shook the hull. The first drone had entered the cloud. It locked on a red line, flicked toward them. Target found without warning. The girl stood. She walked to the back of the ship, bare feet silent against the floor. She placed her hands against the wall and the metal responded. The lights inside the ship dimmed, then changed color from white to teal, just like her eyes. "Don't be afraid," she said. "I'll only change the ship, not you." Before he could ask what that meant, the engines shifted. The ship began to move faster, too fast for a human ship of its class. It twisted like it was alive, sliding between rocks and lightning bolts. Inside the gas cloud behind them, the first drone crashed into a floating rock. The second followed and exploded in a blast of purple fire. The third tried to pull back, but the girl opened her eyes wide, and a soft wave of energy pulsed from her hands into the ship. The pulse spread outside, invisible but sharp. The drone lost control. It spun like a toy and vanished into the storm. Silence filled the ship. No alarms, no flashing red, only the soft humming of her energy fading, and her knees buckling as she fell to the floor. Rylan caught her just in time. Her skin was hot, her breath weak, but she smiled. "I changed it," she whispered. "Just a little." Rylan helped her to the medical chair again. Scanner spun and blinked in confusion. No system in his ship could understand what she was. "You bonded with the ship," he said. "You used your body like it was part of the tech." She nodded. "It listens to me now. It will protect us for a while." He stared at her glowing arms, symbols fading slowly like ancient magic, sinking back into sleep. "Who were those drones meant for?" he asked. "You or anyone who helped you." She looked into his eyes. "They were meant to erase me from existence. Because I remember what I wasn't supposed to." Her voice shook at the end, not with fear but with something heavier. "They trained me to be a weapon, but I only became powerful after." Stopped obeying. Rylan sat beside her. He handed her a water pouch. She took a small sip and leaned her head back. "You didn't just win the auction," she said. "You broke a command chain older than your species." That sentence made Rylan pause. "Older than humans, older than the current galaxy map. What are you really?" he asked. She opened her palm. A small spark danced on her skin like a star trying to form. "I'm not a girl in chains," she said. "I'm a key." Then she closed her hand and the spark disappeared outside the window. The gas cloud faded and far in the distance a black space gate opened, an ancient one, not on any human map. She looked at it and whispered, "That's where we go next." Rylan didn't know what waited on the other side, but he knew one thing for sure. The bid he made back on Zirion, it wasn't just for her freedom, it was for a journey, a war, and maybe something far bigger than he had ever imagined. Rylan stepped out of the cockpit and found her standing in front of the sealed door. The black gate shimmered ahead in the distance through the glass. She was staring at it without blinking, as if she knew what was behind it, as if it was calling her. He walked closer. He said gently, "What is that place?" She turned to face him. Her eyes looked brighter than before, not just glowing, they were alive, moving like stars underwater. "That gate leads to a world they erased from all records," she said. "My first memory began on the other side of it." She looked down at her hands. "I was never born, I was activated." Rylan tried to understand. "You were created there." She nodded. "I woke up inside a cold chamber, alone, surrounded by voices that didn't speak with mouths. I heard thoughts, not words. They've built me to learn fast and obey without question." Rylan felt his skin crawl. She didn't sound angry. She sounded empty, like a puzzle missing its center. "But you escaped," he said. She smiled for the first time, soft, barely visible, but real. "I failed the test," she said. "I didn't want to kill the target they gave me, so they locked me in sleep and sent me across systems to be sold as trash." She sat down slowly on a padded bench. The room went quiet except for the low hum of the engine. She looked around the ship like it was a memory forming in real time. "This ship," she said, "feels like freedom. I never had a choice before." Rylan leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "You have one now," he said. "I'll go wherever you need to go." She blinked, surprised. "No one has ever said that to me before." Her fingers moved across the table. Tiny patterns formed under her touch. Not magic, not technology, he understood. Just something in between. Rylan asked, "What else did they put inside you?" She held up her hand. A soft glow moved across her skin, not like light, more like memory taking shape. "They gave me language from 20 worlds, memory paths from 6 artificial minds, and a core that pulses with something I can't explain." She opened her palm fully. A floating orb appeared. It showed an old planet, dry, cracked, lifeless. "That is where I'm from." She looked sad. "They called it Core Zeta 7, but I called it home." The Image shifted. It showed machines' towers rising like black teeth, and inside them children in glass pods. All of them looked like her. They didn't build just one of me. She said I was number 11, and I was the only one who survived the awakening. Ryland's throat felt tight. He stepped closer and sat beside her. I'm sorry, he said quietly, not because you're different, but because they treated you like a tool. She looked at him, and for a long moment she said nothing, but her eyes shimmered with something soft, something not programmed. I think that's why I spoke to you. She said, I don't know how I knew you would listen, but I was sure the shit beeped arrival warning. They were near the gate. She stood, light flowing behind her like a second skin. If we cross, she said, there's no turning back. They will know I'm awake again, and they'll send the true hunters next time. Ryland looked at the controls, then back at her. I didn't come this far to drop you off. I came to stand with you. She smiled again, stronger this time, almost proud. Then she walked to the control panel and placed her palm on the gate. Keith, the ship responded. The black gate lit up, spinning fast, opening a tear in the fabric of space through it. Ryland saw another sky, no stars, just white light like a sun behind a frozen curtain. She turned and held out her hand. Let's go home. He took it without fear. Together they stepped into the unknown. The moment they stepped through the ancient gate, the ship shook like it had flown into a storm without wind. Lights flickered, walls creaked, but outside there was no space, no stars, no sound, only white light and the ghost of something massive moving far in the distance. It wasn't a planet. It wasn't a ship. It was something else. Sleeping, breathing, watching. Shira stood completely still, her arms loose at her sides. She didn't blink, didn't speak. The glow in her body faded to a soft pulse, like a heartbeat slowing down. Ryland gripped the side rail and stared at her. Where are we? He asked. She whispered between words. This place isn't on any map. Then she turned slowly and pointed toward the horizon. Far ahead, a small black shape floated in the white. A station, old, broken, covered in strange symbols. That's where I woke up, she said, and that's where they will try to shut me down again. As the ship approached the ruined station, something lit up behind them, red sparks, small at first, then fast, spreading like a fire across the white field. Ryland looked at the scanner. He saw the readings, but he didn't understand the symbols. They were not from any language he knew. He said, what is that? She turned fast, eyes wide. They found us. They're sending hunters. The ship's alarm began to scream. Dozens of red dots filled the radar. Not ships, not machines, living energy, fast, sharp, programmed to destroy anything that left the gate without permission. Ryland shouted, we have to run. Shara placed her hand on the console. No, I must face them here. He stared at her. Why here? Because this is where I was made to die. If I end it here, no one else will ever be used like me again. The air around her shimmered. Light spread from her shoulders. Her skin turned translucent, and the symbols from the lab returned, covering her arms and back like ancient armor. Ryland took her arm. You're not alone anymore. She looked at him, not with fear but with something stronger, a kind of fire that had waited years to rise. I know. Outside, the hunters formed a circle. They didn't have eyes or mouths, just moving light, pure destruction, shaped like Bladisara walked to the ship's exit ramp. She stepped out into the white field and raised both hands. The hunters charged. The first wave struck like lightning, but the moment they touched her, they burned out like stars falling into ice. The second wave circled, changed shape, became snakes, then birds, then long claws made of sound. Shara closed her eyes, and the space around her shifted. She was not fighting them. She was rewriting them, changing their code, undoing what they were. Back on the ship, Ryland watched from the screen, his heart beat faster, not because she was in danger, but because he saw what she truly was. Not a weapon, not a girl in chains, but something higher, a being of will, of freedom. Then a final shadow appeared, much larger than the rest, twice the size of the ship, black wings, eyes like suns. It roared in a voice that cracked the station walls. Hera turned to face it and whispered, you were the first who gave me pain, but you will be the last. I forgive. She raised one hand. The field of white twisted into gold, and the creature screamed. Its wings melted, its shape broke apart, and the silence returned. She walked back, step by step, her glow now gentle, her breath slow, her face calm. Ryland met her at the ramp. He held her arm. You did it. She looked at him, and finally tears ran down her face. I'm not afraid anymore. Inside the ship, the scanners cleared. No more red dots, no more threats. But ahead, the gate began to close. Ryland asked, do we leave this place now? She looked back one last time, then nodded yes, but now we leave as equals. The ship floated in silence. After the battle, Shara stood in the center of the main deck, her arms crossed over her chest, eyes locked on the dark station outside. It looked dead cold, cracked open like a broken tooth in the middle of a perfect sky. Ryland walked beside her, his voice low. You were born there. She didn't move. I was built there. He blinked. Built. She raised her hand and touched the console. A signal pulsed from her palm. The ship's lights dimmed and changed to soft violet. The main screen turned black. Then an image appeared. It showed the station from long ago, not broken, but full of light and motion. Dozens of glass pods floated in a large chamber. Each one held a body, thin, pale, almost human. Almost. That was the Corzetta 7 project. She said they wanted to create a living species that could adapt to any world, fight without needing food, speak any tongue, and learn faster than machines. The image zoomed in on one pod. It showed a small girl, eyes closed, hair silver, skin glowing faintly. That one is me. Ryland stared. You remember this? She nodded. I wasn't supposed to, but I do. The next clip showed scientists. Their faces were hidden behind masks. Their bodies moved like shadows, silent, precise. They ran tests, injected colors into tubes, watched data rise and fall on floating displays. They measured everything. She said my reaction to pain, my reaction to kindness, my loyalty to command, and how quickly I forgot someone I was told to kill. Ryland's stomach turned. That's horrible. They didn't think so. She replied to them. I was not alive. I was a function to control. Then the image changed again. It showed Shara standing in a white room. Another being stood in front of her, older, taller, similar silver hair, but no glow in the eyes. That was Unit 1. She said he obeyed every command, never hesitated. But one day, they made him destroy a planet of peaceful creatures. He did it. She lowered her head. He burned everything and never blinked. Ryland clenched his fists. Did they try to make you like him? Yes, she said, but something changed inside me. The day they gave me my first target, I hesitated. I looked at the man's face and saw fear, real fear, and I couldn't pull the trigger. She pointed at the screen. It showed chaos. Sirens, lights, flashing, scientists shouting. One figure slapped her across the face. Another shut down the chamber and froze her body in stasis. They called me corrupted, unstable, a failure. The final video played a sealed transport pod being loaded into a cargo ship, destination Zerion tag. For disposal or trade, they sent me away to be sold, to be forgotten, to become a toy for rich buyers. She looked at Ryland, her voice steady. But you saw something else. He nodded. Slowly, I saw a girl who spoke my language and asked to go home. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The ship floated quietly near the ruins of the past. She walked to the exit hatch and looked at the station again. I want to go in. Right. Stepped beside her. It's dangerous, could be unstable, might still have traps. I know, she said, but I need to see it with my own eyes. One last time. He handed her a scanner. If we're going, I'm not letting you walk in alone. They stepped through the airlock, entered the cold remains of the place that had once tried to erase her soul. Inside, the station was quiet, walls cracked, lights blinking weakly, but the pods were still there, floating like forgotten dream sheet. Stopped at her own chamber, touched the glass. This is where I woke up, but now I choose who I become. Ryland reached out, not to pull her away, but to stand with her hand behind them. The station lights flickered once, then turned off for good. The past was done. Now came the future they would build together. Asterisk. The station went dark completely. No lights, no sound. Just cold air and silence, like a sleeping grave. Ryland turned to Shara, but she was already looking up. Her eyes glowed brighter than before. The symbols on her arms flickered again, faster, sharper, like something inside her was no longer holding back. They've found us, she whispered. I can feel them pressing against the edge of this system. Ryland pulled out his scanner. Hundreds of signals, all closing in. No official ships, no patrols, only black-coated hunters. Erasing machines built by the same ones who had made Shira. We don't have time to run, he said. She walked to the main hall of the station, stood under the broken glass dome that once watched the stars. Now the stars were gone. Only gray light from the old gate abode. She raised both hands. Her body began to lift just a little, not flying but floating. Her feet were off the ground. Her hair rose around her shoulders. Her skin glowed from within, and the symbols on her back formed a circle, a ring that pulsed like a second heart. This was never just about me, she said. I was the first to break free, but I won't be the last. She opened her arms. A shockwave of soundless energy burst from her chest. It flowed through the station, through the broken wires, into the dead computers, and further into the space itself. Ryland grabbed the nearest rail. The wave didn't hurt, but it felt heavy, like a memory he didn't know was his. Like history crawling across his skin above them. The gate opened again, but this time it wasn't bringing enemies. It was pulling something out of her. From the white light came voices, not screaming, not shouting, just whispering, soft, ancient, calling her name. Shara, Unit 11, you were never meant to feel. She answered aloud, I do now. The space around the station cracked like glass breaking under pressure. A glowing structure appeared, a forgotten archive hidden between dimensions, and inside it, other pods. Ryland gasped. They were not empty, they're still alive, he said. Shara nodded. They were like me, frozen because they failed their tests, because they showed mercy, because they asked questions. The gate pulsed, but another signal pushed through. Enemy ships, dozens, then hundreds, crawling from the shadows of hyperspace. Ryland warned, they're coming in fast. She stepped forward. The glow around her turned gold. Her fingers pointed at the gate end. The gate obeyed. Waves of golden fire swept out, but didn't burn. Instead, they pushed, slowed. The enemy ships bent, the space around them. Ryland watched her rise above the station. Her voice echoed like thunder. I was not made to destroy, but I will no longer let them erase what they fear. The enemy launched missiles, drones, charged beams. She closed her eyes. Blasts never reached her. Every strike dissolved before it touched the station. Not from shields, not from tech, but from her will. She was bending the very rules of matter. Not as a weapon, but as a choice. Then her arms dropped. Her body lowered slowly. The glow softened. She turned to Ryland and smiled. It's done. The gate shut behind her, and this time it stayed shut. No more hunters, no more control. He rushed to her, caught her before her knees, gave way. She looked weak but peaceful. I'm still me, she whispered, but now I'm free. He helped her back to the ship behind them. The sleeping pods lit up one by one, and for the first time in ages they began to open. The pods began to open one by one, gas hissed softly from their sides, fingers twitched, eyes blinked open, and the once forgotten children of the Core Zeta 7 project took their first breath in. Shara stood near the edge of the platform, shoulders rising and falling with slow breaths. Her body looked calm, but inside her energy was flickering, fading. Rylan held her arm, steadying her. You saved them. He said you stopped the system that tried to bury them forever. She looked at him, eyes, gentle voice, softer than ever before. I didn't do it alone. You gave me a reason to fight. A young boy stepped out of a pod, hair like polished steel, eyes bright and scared. He looked at Shara, then at Rylan, and without a word he walked to her side and held her hand. More followed, some stumbled, some cried, but none of them looked away from her. They remember you, Rylan whispered. She nodded slowly. I was the only one who spoke back, even when they told us not to. In the distance, the sky began to change. Not with ships, not with war, but with color. The broken field of gray light turned soft gold, like the system itself was healing. The ship's sensors picked up a signal broadcasting from Shara, a message made of music and light, spreading across nearby systems, a call for the lost, a signal of survival and freedom. Rylan turned to her. What happens now? She looked toward the stars. I was made to fit into their plan. Now I'll make my own. She stepped forward, raised her hand, and the station's systems came to life. Not just the lab, but the core, the archives, the memory, storage, everything that had been erased was waking up. This place, this cold station, it had been her prison. Now it was her sanctuary. She turned to the others. They watched her in silence, waiting for a command, but she gave none. Instead, she smiled. You're free. No one controls you now, not even me. The silence that followed was powerful, like the moment before dawn, before something new begins. Rylan walked up beside her, his voice warm. You're not a weapon anymore. She looked into his eyes and asked, do I still scare you? He reached out, took her hand, and answered, no, you inspire me. She leaned against his shoulder, and for the first time since she woke in chains, she closed her eyes without fear. The other units moved closer, not in formation, not as soldiers, but as people together, learning how to live. Behind them, the gate shimmered one last time, then vanished completely, sealed forever. No more hunters, no more masters, just a station floating in peace with new life inside. Shara had found her place, not because she was made for it, but because she claimed it with choice, with strength, with love. This was home now, and she was finally free.